So, Amy, can you say hello?
I sure can. Can you give me a thumbs up or something, Ginger? You can hear me okay?
Yes, you sound wonderful. So, Amy, as you
Super.
pull up your slides, can you give us a self-introduction?
Yeah, happy to. So, hi, everyone. I'll just start by saying the conversation so far has been fabulous. I took a bunch of notes. Um, and here, let me share my screen here. Let me know. Let's see. Slideshow.
Yeah, just start
Okay.
slideshow. Yep, that looks
Yeah.
fantastic.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, super. So I have loved this conversation. I actually took a bunch of notes in front of me. I might refer back to it, but bravo, Ginger and team, for the order in which we've all spoken, because I think it's a really good segue. So let me start with my introduction. So my name is Amy Freshman. I'm part of organization ADP. I happen to be sitting in our Roseland, New Jersey headquarters, but I normally work from my home office in Massachusetts. So I know I'm in good company here. So a little bit about me. I have been with ADP. I just celebrated my 28th year here. Yes, I started straight out of college. I spent about 17 years or so in the sales organization through multiple different roles. And in 2012, I have to do the math in my head, I joined the global HR organization. And my day job consists of I run our remote work, flexible work arrangements program, which I'm sure will come up at some point during this conversation. And then in 2017, I took on the responsibility of leading our HR practice for mergers and acquisitions for ADP. So when we as an organization go out and pursue potentially acquiring a new organization into our world, into our ecosystem, I get the privilege of running everything from diligence all the way through to integration. So it's a very niche market, but it's certainly fun and enjoyable. And a little bit about me personally, I married, second marriage for both my husband and I. So he came to the party with two kids who are now, not kids, 26 and almost 23. I have a daughter from my previous, she is going to turn 21 in October, which is mind blowing. And together we have our youngest, who is a 15-year-old sophomore. She's a sophomore in high school. So we are officially the yours, mine, and ours family. And so I'm really excited to be here today, Ginger, and appreciate and definitely in good company with all the rest of the speakers.
All right, well, the floor is all yours. Take it away.
Super. Thank you so much. So, and hopefully I'll be able to, advance slides here. Good. Okay. So, I gave you a little bit of information about who I am. As I mentioned, I happen to be sitting on our global headquarters here in Roseland, New Jersey. For those that don't know, we are a 60,000 plus associate organization global. And just quickly on my backstory a little bit. In 2007, I think somebody else mentioned that spoke earlier, been a remote worker long before we knew the word COVID or that was even a thing. That was me. So I moved to a home office in 2007. And I'd say never looked back, but I do a fair amount of travel and be where I need to be when I need to be there. So I'm hoping we can get a little bit of the chat going here. I know I've seen some questions come through. So hopefully we can get it going. I would love to just hear from all of you, anyone who's dialed in. If you could share answer the question here, which is wellness in your workplace? And of course, I'm going to use the term workplace. I almost put quotes around it. Workplace is very different today than it was pre-COVID, of course. So place of work could be a physical place, it could be a virtual place, or it's likely a mixed bag, as it is with us as an organization. Okay, so I'm seeing some responses. Thank you all. I appreciate it. I've got a B, which is a yes, but we could use some improvement. Mix, no, not really. So not surprised. Got a lot of mixed. What I'm hoping we talk about here today is giving you, and And when I say you, each of us are our own unique selves, right? So I want you to think about wellness in the workplace, first within yourself, and second, across your organization. We likely have people leaders on the call. Some may be running parts of the HR organization or streams within HR or well beyond. So we all wear multiple hats. We're part of a larger ecosystem in some form or fashion. I put in the chat earlier, somebody was, it was Kaylin, I think, who was talking about career. One of my favorite books, old school books, is You Don't Need a Title to Be a Leader. And I think that really resonates through all the conversation that we're having here today, is we all have opportunity to make an impact on other people, regardless of whatever title we cover. So, okay, thank you for humoring me with that, but I've got another question. I would love to hear, I got two more actually, this is 2 of 3. Your personal definition. So I would love to hear, if you're so willing to appease me, in 3 words or less. If you do 5, I'll take it. What does wellness mean to you? Because I think we often hear about, we talk about, certainly post-COVID, we hear a lot around wellness. The last segment was optimal work-life balance, right? So work-life balance, wellness, what does it mean to you? So I'm going to give you, thank you, keep going in the chat. What it means to me is it's prioritizing me. So I heard a lot of that in here. I keep looking down because I have so many great notes. I'm trying to find my notes here. So I heard things like fuel, setting boundaries. Like that's another big one for me, is there's so many components, like spokes of a wheel from a wellness perspective. So self-care, balance, health. I love that, Mara. Thank you. Ability to take care of myself, right? So a little bit in line with kind of where my head was going. Feeling healthy throughout the day. That is true wellness. I don't know if it's fully achievable, but it is definitely something to be striving for. And I'm sorry, I can't remember on the panel who said it. You check your headspace. Like that so resonated with me, of like, we talk about checking in with other people and checking in with our team or maybe our leader, but I don't know that we do enough check in with myself. Like, how am I feeling in this moment? I went through an exercise some time ago where there was basically like a daily check-in process. And you asked part of it was rating how you're feeling, right? This whole like wellness check-in thing, but then using 3 words to describe how you're feeling at that moment. So it's just an opportunity to kind of take a pause, and will help hopefully kind of bring us more closer to this thing called wellness. The last piece that I'm going to ask you again, thank you all for the comments in the chat. I'm just scrolling down. Mental, physical health. Yes, Nancy, thank you. This last one is, how do you practice wellness? So we heard a little bit of this, right? Check my headspace, which I really like. Rebecca, 5 a.m. CrossFitter. I'm not a CrossFitter, but I am a 5 a.m.er. Pre-COVID, I had a whole group that we would meet up at 5:45 in the morning for an hour. It is a unique breed, my friends. So we're in the same club. It's not everybody's, but don't ask me to go for a run at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because it's not going to happen. So I'm with you. I see Pilates. How do you practice well? Feeling like my bucket is full. Priscilla, I love that. Thank you. If people want to keep adding into the chat, I'll take it. This is just kind of like a good foundation when we think about wellness in the workplace, right? We are, as I mentioned, all our unique selves, and how we show up, I'll use air quotes, at work, again, whether work is virtual or work is in a physical place, or probably a mixed bag. Eating better so I don't need a nap after lunch. Oh, Erin, you are preaching to the choir here. What I consume, what I ingest in my body has a direct correlation, and I'm not a scientist or a nutritionist to know how I'm feeling later in the afternoon. My 5 a.m.er friend, Wendy, I think that was you. Don't call a meeting for me at 4:30 in the afternoon, because that is not my best time. So I heard a lot of that within the work-life balance conversation. Thank you all, and please keep the chat going. Would love to see and hear your reactions. So I thought maybe a good start would be this concept. It's not really a concept, it's a reality. Everyone has their own story. If I ask the question, which I won't formally ask, I've done similar conversations even internally within my organization through different functions. When I ask the question, Do you have someone that you know or within your reach that is struggling? The answer is 10 out of 10 people raise their hand and say, I know either I'm struggling or I know someone that's struggling. So my backstory here, when we talk about wellness in the workplace, is in 2020, we all know what happened. I don't need to go through all the details. Somebody mentioned the date. For us, it was March 13th, when sort of like the world shut down, both school and work, etc. And about a month later, I have someone very close to me in my family who suffered a manic episode. So I won't go into heavy details, but he's since been diagnosed with bipolar. It's a very difficult and terrible diagnosis. But what's interesting about that whole experience, I connected with one of our senior HR leaders at the time. I don't work for him, he doesn't work for me, but somehow we connected, and he became somewhat of a confidant for me and someone I felt really comfortable sharing a lot of information, and here's what I'm going through. And he was really just an ear for me. Fast forward to, I want to say it was January, February-ish time frame of 2021. Certainly we knew by then that this work from home remote thing ain't going away, right? Like, hey, take your laptop, go home for 2 weeks and we'll reassess in 2 weeks, right? 6 months and so long, and so on went forward. There was a conversation at a senior level within my organization of really recognizing that our associates are in many ways struggling. They're challenged. Everybody's trying to figure this whole thing out. Either some have been doing it a long time. So COVID didn't really affect me, like from a remote work perspective. I know those who are home like me. The difference was all my peers now were all home. So they got to see what it felt like to be me all these years. But there was a recognition that we as a company need to do more to be there for our associates. So this little hashtag you see here with the heart and the brain kind of shaking hands, we developed and created our hashtag, which is hashtag ADP It's Okay. And very similar to, and I'm sure people have seen this, of, it's okay to not be okay, right? That's like the end all be all. But the idea with this, and I'll kind of walk you through a little bit of our thinking, was you finish this statement however you deem fit. In this moment, in this second, on this day, it's probably going to look different 4 hours from now and certainly 2 weeks from now. Sometimes it's a positive ADP, it's okay. It's okay to disconnect from work. We heard a lot of that in the work-life balance conversation. Or it's okay to be feeling down because I'm struggling with something, or I'm watching my loved one go through a very difficult time and I'm feeling helpless, which is a true statement. So I just want to acknowledge that you, as your own human, you have your own story. Your immediate team, you have your own story. And then broader than that, across your organization, perhaps people in your organization that you have never and may never really interact with, they have their own story. And then, of course, this brings into personal. When you're walking down the street or you're passing someone in a grocery aisle, we all have our own story. So be kind is another hashtag ADP. It's okay to be kind. But I think it's a good segue when we think about wellness in the workplace. Before I go through the visual, I'm going to kind of go through each of these here quickly. Oh, Felicity, I love that. I know I'm in a good place when I don't need afternoon coffee. I'm with you. I think what's important, and for those of us, which it sounds like many of us have been in the business world for some time. Sorry, your pictures are over here, which is why I keep looking to the right. I grew up in a world of work where you kind of left your bags at the door. If you were in a bad mood, you slept wrong, you were in maybe traffic you could talk about, but anything else personal happening, I mean, I'll go back and say 10 years ago, I probably would never get on a call and tell people that someone I know was diagnosed with bipolar. Like, it's just not something we ever talked about. I think the world, in a very good way, in my opinion, has changed. We recognize that we are all humans. We all have our own story, as we just discussed. And this whole, I'm looking at the front door, leaving it at the front door and just walking in and pretending like everything's hunky-dory. Yes, we all have a job to do. Yes, we have meetings we have to run, presentations we have to do. So it's compartmentalizing, but recognizing that I am my whole self, whether I'm physically at work or virtually at work, with my family, at a dinner, right? You name it. So I think it's good news that we have an opportunity to really open up conversation and open up dialogue. I'm going to blow through these here pretty quickly, but as we think about wellness in the workplace, the first area, and I actually heard a lot of this too in the work-life balance section, as well as on the manager's piece. So just very quickly, we all have team members, colleagues. Those of us have been around for a while. If you remember or if you still use perhaps the Gallup survey, one of the questions on the engagement survey was, do you have a best friend at work? And we would all joke and say, like, are you my best friend? I'm your best friend. I have a number of best friends at work. It's not literal terms, as we all know. Do you have people at work that you feel comfortable, confident? You feel like you could pull them aside and say, hey, I'm really struggling. If you don't, it's an opportunity. And those opportunities happen by building relationships. What's great about this and the opportunity from a peer-to-peer perspective is you are peer-to-peer. It's not a hierarchical relationship. And so this is a twofold. So if Wendy is my peer and she and I get to know each other and we spend time and we've got a connection, my job, part of my job, I believe, is to watch for changes. If Wendy's usually on video and the last couple times we talked, she's not on video, I might check in with her and see how she's doing, especially because we're all remote. If she sounds different, if she looks different, if she's missing calls, certainly like we go to the extreme, but we have an opportunity as humans to watch for those changes and ask questions. The whole ask, how are you, right? So again, I'll go back to pre-COVID times. I would get on a call, I say, hey, Lynn, how you doing? Good, how was your weekend? Good, great. Okay, and we jump right into the conversation. I would say, again, some silver linings here with this COVID thing, right? There's more of, how are you? What's happening? You know, last time you mentioned something about your loved one. How are they doing? And stop talking and listen and watch and just be there. There's many times, there's always business to be done, always work to be done, but that opportunity to ask those questions, be genuine and really listen to one another, you could literally make someone's day. You could make someone's afternoon. So take the time to ask, how are you? And really engage. From a program perspective, and I'll go back to like our whole campaign of #ADP It's Okay. When we rolled this thing out, we had our first ever, so it's an annual thing now, besides the fact that it's spread throughout all the year. Every May is our month of wellness at ADP. It wasn't about, even go back to the first one in 2021, wasn't about creating 62 new programs. We have tons of programs and offerings at ADP. Benefits, we have EAP. The challenge is, and probably you all know this, is it's not if you build it, they will come. We had many people who just never used the program. Either they didn't know it exists, they didn't know how to, they didn't recognize like how easy it is or that it's included in the benefits. So it was more of lifting up the conversation and doing a better job serving up all that we offer. We certainly did some more, concentrated programs. Our EAP program is fantastic. This whole leverage external providers, somebody mentioned Calm, right? So companies like that can contract with organizations to help offer either discounted rates or what have you. We have a wellness provider that we use, which is Virgin Pulse, to recognize and promote health and wellness within work. And then that whole encourage utilization, which I spoke about. So managers, this is another big place. And I'm mindful of the clock here, Ginger, so I'm pushing through. So if you are a leader, right? So when I say use the word manager, I just mean someone who leads people. So people leaders. I heard this earlier too. Somebody said it around, how do you encourage work-life balance? Somebody said, lead by example. There it is, lead by example. So, opportunity for leaders to build trust, to create that safe space, to engage. That whole how are you conversation peer-to-peer absolutely happens here as well. The see something, say something, which again is another opportunity for a leader to check in and say, hey, Shelley, you doing okay? I just want to check in with you and, I'm seeing this. What's going on? Can I help you? I heard a lot of conversation around support, boundaries. Those are all things that leaders really need to do. That safe space is a big one. I think the other piece, I'm just going to move because I think it's covered on this one. Yeah. So you've got the associate, all of us individuals, right? We've got our peer group. we've got our managers. Now we have the organization. So we as an organization, what can we do to help drive wellness in the workplace? It starts at the top. And again, I don't care how big your organization is, it really does start at the top. I heard earlier around culture, enablement. Those are two other words I wrote down. Storytelling. So one of the things that someone put in the chat earlier around around authentic leadership, it said, I am not authentic with my team, and something to the effect of, I think it shows weakness. So I'm going to tell you a very quick story. When we rolled this out, this was 2021, we have on our intranet, we have a leader blog, right? It's an opportunity for senior leaders to basically write a story about anything they want. One of our more senior leaders wrote an entire blog around his battle with depression. It had more hits, it had more comments, and it created this beautiful, I get chills when I think about it, like firestorm of like, oh my gosh, here is a senior leader who is sharing his story, talk about not leaving his baggage at the door, and telling the world of ADP what he struggles with, how he manages it, how he has a support system. I mean, it was a very uplifting, obviously, and positive story, but very real, very truthful. That storytelling, I think, made a huge difference on our overall culture as an organization and our opportunity to really open up the conversation. And the last piece on org is really consistency. So it's not a flavor of the month, like, oh, we're going to talk about wellness today, and then we're not going to talk about it for 6 more months. It needs to be consistent. I'm happy to say that it's been embedded in so many of our different functional areas, our COEs, our business units. When they do a team meeting or a full day learning program, wellness is, I'm going to go 85% of the time, wellness is one of the topics. That's how you build consistency, and that's how you build culture. I'm going to wrap this pretty quickly, and I'll just leave this closing slide up here, and certainly happy to open for questions. I know we're out of time. I do want to direct you, and I know you'll send out a copy of this recording, but if you haven't yet visited our ADP Research Institute, we do a ton of work on research insights expertise. We just released this year a People at Work 2023. I won't spoil the whole thing. There's 4 main areas that came out of it. One of them is a caring workplace culture. So when you think about wellness at work or in the workplace, whatever that might look like, I do encourage you to go there. Also, I had a wonderful opportunity to spend some time with Berta Aldrich at Voices of HR. I did a podcast with her. It turned out to be a YouTube. It's on Spotify. But basically, we talk all about wellness at work, and we also talk about remote work, which I know we didn't have a lot of time to go through. I've also had the great opportunity to write a bunch of articles and media pieces. Please follow me on LinkedIn. This topic of wellness, not just in the workplace, but in life, is very near and dear to me, as you now all know. And it's a daily struggle. We can be here for each other, for one another, and certainly prioritizing ourselves when we think about wellness. So I'll turn it to you, Ginger, open up for questions. I'm looking in the chat as well.
Yeah, I'll read some of the questions that have come in through the chat. I'll start with this one that came in earlier. Rachel says, we have a blended workplace of office workers and floor factory type workers. How can we start with a plan when it's 2 totally different groups? Yeah,
Such a good question. So first and foremost, remember our common thread is we're all humans and we all work, right? So that's like the baseline. So the programs, the benefits offerings, right, it's likely available to all. How each of those 2 groups, as you've just described, leverage them, and specifically from a time perspective. So we talked about work-life balance earlier, and I have autonomy in my role where I can get up at 5, I work for an hour, I go run, I come back, I might go drop my kids off, right? So I have that flexibility. Somebody like a factory worker or someone for us, like on customer service, client service, they're on the phones. They just don't have that autonomy. So time ends up being one of the biggest challenges, and same probably for the floor factory workers. Where there's opportunity, I'm apparently not moving enough because my light just turned off, where there's opportunity to provide those resources when it makes sense in their calendars, in their schedules, and carving out that time, Somebody used the word enable. Like, this is a perfect example of working with your leadership team, inclusive of the frontline leaders of those associates, on how do you make it, how do you enable them to be able to leverage the resources very similar to the office workers? But it's a good question. It's a challenge, but I do think it's doable.
Well, I think we have time for one more question, and then we'll ask you for some final thoughts before we move on to Nora's presentation. And Sirianne says, our company has older leadership and wellness is not important. I'm struggling with retention and recruitment. How can I gently bring this up to our older leadership team? The mentality is we pay them and we give them vacation.
Yeah. Sirianne, my heart goes out to you, and you're not alone, first of all. So I will direct you certainly to, there's a ton of resources, not just Research Institute. I'll give a shout out to my friend. I call her my friend, Natalie Kogan. You can Google her, Nataly Kogan, Kogan. She's local to Massachusetts, by the way. And she's a keynote speaker. She's an author. She's fantastic. But there is data out there that talks about wellness and how it impacts productivity. So if you've got an older, old school, whatever you want to call it, leadership team that says this isn't important, if they can start to see the impact of burnout, stress, people literally feeling unwell and unkept and not feeling heard and understood and not being able to do everything that they need to do to be all of who we are as humans, I think you're going to start to get some attention. That's comment one. Comment two is conversation like this in a company like you're describing starts one conversation at a time. So I'm a believer in building some advocacy one-off. So I'll go and I'll call Wendy first and I'll have a conversation. And then I'll call Shelley. And by the time we actually get to the room, I already know I've got 3 advocates that can raise their hand and say, yes, I understand, I agree, this is what I read. And they, as a collective team, they can collaborate and help drive the message as to why wellness is so important.
Well, thank you so much. Well, as we close and wrap, do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom for our audience today? So my final thoughts are, I'm thrilled that wellness in the workplace continues to be a hot topic. It is critical. I feel like every day I could say now more than ever, it's critical. It continues to be critical. I think that we have to go well beyond the basic. We offer medical and dental and we have PTO. That's not enough. It's not even the ante to play anymore. It should be embedded in culture and really showcased. But really the biggest piece of that I'll leave you all with is it needs to be thread throughout and not a flavor of the day, because your teams, your employees will see right through that and recognize that it sounds good on paper, but when you get in there, it's really just, work, and there's no wellness. We really need to make sure that our companies, our organizations are really embracing wellness within the workplace. Well, Amy, thank you so much for your time and your wonderful presentation this afternoon. Thank you.